Hi and welcome to Nature Magnified. Today I'm going to show you how to make a macro lens from an old SLR camera lens. So here I've got an old Minolta manual focus lens. This is an f1.8 50mm lens. It's basically a manual aperture lens. You can see here. If I move this, the aperture will open and shut. It would be preferable to get a lens that has a wider aperture because this will give you a wider lens, and therefore you could avoid the vignetting issues when you put it on the phone. And here I have a Clubman macro lens. This is an f3.5 lens, so you can see that the lens is much smaller inside. By smaller I mean that the radius of the lens inside is much lesser than the f1.8 lens. What we need actually is the back part of the lens, the focusing part of the lens. This is the part that focuses the light onto the sensor. So we're going to try and remove this part, so you can use a plier to try and unscrew it. It is screwed onto the rest of the lens, so using a plier you can try and unscrew it. I actually removed the whole lens initially first, so this time it's much more easier and it will come off much more easier. You might have to take off the steel part at the back to unscrew the lens first time. Here I am able to unscrew it with my hands and with a little help from the pliers. So here it comes out. So this is what we need. You can see the rest of the lens is here. We won't actually touch any of this. We don't need this. So this part actually is a combination of 3 different lenses, and it offers some magnification, as you can see here. I will show it to you in more detail later. I'll just screw that in, and this is the part that we will need to put onto the phone. This f1.8 lens, we will have to unscrew the back, and this comes off much more easily. I will just unscrew this, and we can use this and we can compare both and see which one offers better magnification. Okay, here it comes off, and this is the rest of the lens, and you can see that this lens that I've taken out is actually much larger than the previous one, and the larger it is, the better it is. And if you look through the lens, you can see the magnification, but also if you turn it around and you look at it from the other side, you can see it's a much higher magnification, and higher is not necessarily better, because we'll get to that later. Now let's try and put this onto the phone and see how it works. Okay, I've just switched on the camera, and you can see the lenses here. Now let's try and put this lens onto the front of the phone camera, and if I move, you can see the magnification, and if I move closer, it actually focuses, and you can see the details on the lenses at a much higher magnification than without the lens. And this is how the lens fits on top of the phone. We have to somehow fit it here. Okay, now let's try the other lens, the smaller lens that I took out. If I put this on top of the camera, you can see that there's an area of black around it because the lens is smaller. And if I turn it around, both sides have that black area, and that's not good. That's why we would prefer a larger lens to eliminate the black area around. Okay, Now, which side of the lens should go on to the phone camera? As you can see, this is the side with the thread, the screw threads, and if I use this, I get a decent magnification and a decent working distance from the subject. But if I turn it the other way around and then put it, then I have to go much closer to the subject to get it to focus, but I get a higher magnification. And this is not really a good thing, because I have to be very close to the subject. Okay, now let's try some footage and see how it works. This is a dead ant here, or half dead ant, and if I use the phone camera, I can barely focus on it from this close. But if I zoom in and I use the digital zoom at 4 times the magnification, you can see how the ant looks here. Now let's try and put the lens on top of the camera lens, the phone camera, and see. And as you can see, it's a much higher magnification, and you can see the subject much bigger. There is some distortion around the edges, but you get a decent magnification with the lens. Okay, now let's see the working distance. So if I keep the lens with the screw side on, then I get a working distance of about between 2 to 6 centimeters. I can actually move further back and it will still be in focus. If I'm closer, I get a better magnification. To attach the lens, we can use some power tack or blue tack, as you may know it. This is a gluey, sticky substance which we can use to stick the lens onto the camera without permanently sticking it on there. Here is some that I used earlier, which I will reuse. So basically what you need to do is activate it by rolling it between your fingers. We can just roll it on the table to make it nice and long. Once it's nice and long, you can just fit it onto the lens, fit it around the rim of the lens where the thread is, and then we can stick it onto the main camera of the lens. Just make sure it covers the main camera, and the main camera is in the center, and press it down so that it stays stuck and doesn't fall off. Now let's start the camera, and as you can see, the lens is giving much higher magnification, and this is roughly the working distance from the subject. You can see that it's roughly around 2 centimeters. You can use the digital zoom and zoom in, and at 4 times digital zoom you'll get a rather large image of the subject. This is the image that I took, and if you zoom out, then you will get an image like this. It's not in focus here. That's because of the camera that I used to shoot this video, but actually on the phone it is in focus. So here's the picture that I took. You can see it's in focus. So yeah, that's it. That's your macro lens from an SLR lens. If you have an old SLR lens lying around and want to get into macro photography on a mobile phone, then please do try this out. Now let's take a look at some videos and images that I've taken with the lens on. this is a scale without any lens, and if you put the lens on, you can see it's much more magnified, but there is some lens distortion happening. Now if you invert the lens and put the non-thread side onto the camera lens, then you can see that if I go close, there is no distortion. But you can see here the working distance between the lens and the subject is very little, and if you go close, it is giving a better magnification, but the working distance is very little. If you invert the lens with the thread side facing the mobile phone camera, then there is distortion, but the working distance is much better. Here are some photos showing you the same thing with and without the lens and the reverse side of the lens. That's it from me. If you like this video and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe to my channel and enable notifications. Thank you.